Okay, so now Sher Kim, that was the boy who was 14 when he came to the United States, is 20 years old. His real father wrote him a letter from China, and it says, "Dear number one son," the letter began, referring to Sher Kim as the eldest, which is the oldest son. "It's time to come home." Now, considered a son of a native, Sher Kim could visit his village in China and know that he would be readmitted, which means allowed back in, to the United States. He arrived in China on a Tuesday, and he was married on a Saturday. This is craziness. To a woman chosen by his parents and whom he had never seen before. They had a son who died as a baby. So let's just rewind here. He's 20 years old. Dad writes him a letter, says, "Come back to China." He knows it's okay for him to go to China because he knows he can come back. When he gets there, his parents have this girl and says, "You're going to marry her in a few days, even though you've never met her." Crazy. All right. But anyway, he does it. Maybe that's something they do. So he returns to America to work. And then in 1924 and in 1929, he goes back to China to visit his village and see his wife. So his wife stays in China. This is kind of very odd for us to think about it. They have two children, Wanda and Sherman. Those don't sound like Chinese names. So here's Wanda right here. Here's Sherman, and here's his wife. So, okay. After each visit, Sher Kim returned to the United States to work. In 1935, he decided to bring his family to America. He and his wife offered a 12-year-old boy in the village the opportunity to go with them. They gave the boy the name John. John became their paper son. So if you remember right here, they had a son who died as a baby. When he came back to the United States, he told them that he had a baby and a real son. He never told them that the son died. So technically, he has 3 children. Ooh, look at my camera here. 3 children and a wife that the U.S. government knows of. So they told this kid, John, that he could be their paper son. Okay, so Sher Kim knew there would be another interrogation. Questions, lots of questions. Officials held them back, and questioned all new immigrants. He put together a book for his wife so they could coordinate their stories and make certain that they gave the same answers during questioning. Again, I already told you about that. Like, what color is your house? If you say red and she says blue, no, not going to happen. Okay, so the coaching book contained information about the names and birth dates of all their family members, the location of their home in the village and its environment, the dates of Sher Kim's travels to China, and more. So basically, she and the paper son, John, what they're calling John, had to memorize all this information because if they got anything wrong, they could be deported. It just says right here. As expected, Sher Kim's wife and children were detained at Angel Island. Officials questioned each member of the family, even the 6-year-old Sherman. Can you imagine a 6-year-old being questioned? And they brought Sher Kim in a second time for questioning. So he thought he was done. And then they're like, "Oh no, come on back. We have some more." So Sam Louie, the youngest of Sher Kim, who was born later in San Francisco, says the interrogation was a nervous process for everyone. Okay, so hold up. Here we go. He had the baby that died. He made that kid into a paper son. He had his real kid, Wanda, the real kid, Sherman, and then another one who he called Sam. But Sam was different because Sam was born in the United States. And this is Sam remembering this. So, Sam Louie. So Louie is a retired educator and a volunteer at Angel Island Immigration Station. In July of 2015, the Angel Island Immigration Station Foundation, well, that sounds a lot, hosted a family history reunion day event. Portraying his father, Louie, so remember this guy, Sam Louie, his dad was that paper son back from right here, this guy right here. I'm sorry if you hear my dog whining in the background. Sorry. Okay. I'm trying to find my place. He said, portraying his father, Louis shared his story. He says, many Chinese, including my father, claim to be a son of a native, which means somebody who was born in the United States. So they could come to America to seek a better life for themselves and their family. They were, in fact, only sons on paper, an affidavit the father signed, thus the term paper son. Okay, so that whole sentence right there is just so fancy for just saying they had a piece of paper, the guy signed it saying, this dude is my son, and then that was it. My dog is so annoying right now. Louis showed his father's certificate of identity. All right. He explains that for Sher Kim, which was his dad, to claim his birth record, he had to find 2 witnesses who would testify that they knew him as a child, Louis says. The witnesses had to be white because the Chinese were not trusted. Oh, wow, this is even more crazy. So once he had that, okay, remember that 14-year-old boy, this guy right here, he was allowed to come into the United States. Then they had to find 2 white people to say, oh, yeah, I know him. He was born here. Oh, my goodness. This is crazy. Ugh, I do not like this. Okay. Sher Kim had a twin paper brother. But when the 2 boys were placed next to each other, it seemed clear they were not twins at all. Sher Kim was much taller. The twin was deported back to China, where he died 2 years later. I don't know what that's about. I don't quite understand that paragraph, but I'm going to keep reading, and maybe when I look at the next page with the pictures and captions, I'll figure that out. Some Chinese scholars, which are like smart people, estimate. I'm going to pause again. My dog, I need to yell. Okay. Some Chinese scholars estimate that 80% of the Chinese in America had a paper son in their family history. What? So that means if there are 100 Chinese people, 80 of them had a paper son. Louis adds, I knew as a child growing up that I was never to reveal, which means tell, to others that my father was a paper son for fear we might all get deported. Okay, so let's look at this picture. So this was the guy, my dog, pausing again. Okay, so anyway, my dog is here, sorry. So this is the guy we saw in the first picture, and here's this other kid. And they say the lack of resemblance between Sher Kim and his twin brother made officials determine that they were not related. So we do know that you can have a twin that looks nothing like you. But in this case, the U.S. people were like, no way that you guys can be related. And they made this guy go back, but let him stay. Okay, Sher Kim, which is that 14-year-old that came here, this is his certificate of identity. Makes note of a pit over left eyebrow under physical marks and peculiarities. All right. Oh, wow, there's even more. Okay, so look, nowadays all this is going to be in a computer. This is all handwritten here. And what they're saying here is that he had a mark over his left eyebrow that helped people identify him. All right. We're almost finished, guys. Stick with me. We only have a little bit more. Yep. Just 2 more paragraphs. Okay. So the son, what's his name? Sam. Okay. He's still telling his story. He goes, my parents never talked to me about their immigration experience, he says. I never even knew they were detained at Angel Island immigration station until my mother passed away at the age of, whoa, she was 98 in 2003. That's really old. Louie conducted, which means he did it, a research at the National Archives and Records Administration in San Bruno, California. That's just a fancy government place. He found a transcript of the interrogation of his mother and his siblings during their detainment. So transcript is kind of like their chat history in a way. So it shows what questions were asked and what each person answered. The transcript was 42 single-spaced pages long. So single-spaced is like what we're seeing right here. So if you think about like these, that's a lot of questions that they asked them. 42 pages of questions. Louie says, many of my friends and relatives said that their parents never talked about their immigration experience either. I suspect those experiences were painful and something they would rather forget. And this sentence right here really makes me understand that, yes, to be questioned, to be scared, to be alone, I would definitely maybe not want to remember that so much or tell my children about those pains that I had. So anyway, that's it for this story. I know it's long. This is probably the hardest story in the book. I don't know why it's story number 1. Thanks for sticking with me, and I'll be back to help you with questions in a little bit.